the human princess, returned from exile to end the war. The winds of Serla Prime whipped her hair around her face, carrying a chill that reminded her she had been alone for many years. Once, she had lived in grandeur, in the golden halls of the Human Alliance capital, with advisors, guards, and courtiers attending her every need. Now, she lived in quiet exile, far from the politics and conflicts that had stolen everything from her family. The palace had been taken, her parents vanished in the chaos of the great galactic conflict, and the humans scattered across the stars, considered weak, inferior, and fragmented. The quiet of Serla Prime had been comforting at first. Alara had thought isolation might give her time to mourn, to forget the fear and loss that clung to her like a second skin. She had learned to farm the small lands near her cliffside home, to repair the small hovercraft she used to explore the surrounding valleys, and to read every book and data file she could find in the planet's neglected archives. But as days turned into months, the loneliness became heavy. The planets around Serla Prime, neutral as they were, knew little of the humans or their struggle. Here, she could be invisible, and yet, even invisible, she could not escape the echo of her own destiny. One morning, as the light of the suns broke over the mountains, Alara found a small, weathered container tucked among the rocks near her home. Inside was a message crystal, warm to the touch, as if it had traveled across light years to find her. She activated it with trembling fingers, and a soft hologram flickered to life. The image was that of a human envoy, older than she remembered her teacher's being, his face lined with worry and urgency. "Princess Alara," the hologram began, voice steady, "the war has reached a point where the Alliance may not survive another year. The factions are splintering and our enemies grow bolder every day. You must return. The humans will follow you, and perhaps, with your guidance, we can end this war before it consumes the galaxy." Alara's heart thudded painfully in her chest. The message confirmed what she had long suspected. The human colonies were in danger, and without someone to lead them, they would crumble completely. Her first reaction was doubt. Could she really do this? She had been a princess in name only, trained in diplomacy and history, not in battle or leadership of armies. And now, after years of solitude, she was a stranger to her own people. Still, there was something in her chest that stirred, a spark that had never died despite her isolation. She remembered the stories her parents had told her, stories of humanity's greatest strength not lying in the power of weapons, but in the ability to think, to adapt, and to unite in the face of impossible odds. Perhaps this was the moment she had been waiting for, whether she knew it or not. Over the next few days, Alara scoured the hidden archives she had discovered long ago. They were filled with ancient strategies, records of human explorers, philosophers, and inventors who had solved conflicts in ways that did not rely on brute force. She found lessons in negotiation, in patience, in creativity, and in empathy. The more she read, the more she realized that humans had survived for centuries because of these qualities, and perhaps they could survive again. But knowledge alone was not enough. Alara would need allies, people who trusted her, and who were willing to risk the anger of powerful alien factions to stand beside a human princess. She began to send discreet messages through the planetary network, reaching out to those she knew from her childhood, and to strangers whose courage she could sense through their deeds recorded in the archives. Responses arrived slowly at first, cautious and measured, but they came. Scholars, traders, and even a few retired explorers offered to join her cause, willing to travel through dangerous territories to meet her. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a deep purple, a small shuttle arrived. Its hull shimmered in the fading light, and a crew of 5 stepped out. They were a mix of humans and aliens, each with their own story of loss, hope, or curiosity. One of them, a tall human engineer named Curran, bowed to Alara. "Princess," he said, "we have come because we believe in the humans. We believe in you." Alara felt an unexpected warmth in her chest. For the first time in years, she was not alone. She spoke to them late into the night, learning their strengths and weaknesses, sharing her vision of a future where humans were no longer seen as weak or divided. Their enthusiasm, tempered with caution, gave her hope. Perhaps together, they could achieve what she alone could not. The journey back to the heart of the human alliance would be dangerous. The stars were filled with fleets from alien factions who saw humans as expendable or insignificant. Alara knew they would face blockades, misinformation campaigns, and hostile encounters. But she also knew that humans had something no other species seemed to understand fully: the ability to adapt, to think creatively under pressure, and to unite even when divided. On the third day of preparation, Alara received a secret message from a distant planet. It was a fragment of intelligence that suggested an alien faction, one of the most feared in the war, secretly desired peace. The message was brief, cryptic, and unsigned. It hinted at a meeting place, a time, and a phrase that would identify her. Alara knew this could be a trap, but it could also be the key to ending the war before more lives were lost. She felt the weight of her choice pressing down on her. Act, and she could save thousands. Hesitate, and humanity might be scattered forever. That night, she walked along the cliffs again, staring at the twin suns as they sank behind the horizon. The wind carried whispers of past generations, of humans who had survived impossible odds and risen above despair. She remembered her mother's words: "Alara, strength is not in the power to destroy, but in the courage to create solutions when none seem possible." By dawn, her decision was made. She would return, not as a princess in exile, not as a shadow of the past, but as a leader who believed in the ingenuity, resilience, and heart of her people. She gathered her small crew, and together they boarded the shuttle, its engines humming softly against the quiet of the planet. As Serla Prime disappeared behind them, Alara felt a surge of determination. The path ahead was unknown. The stars were vast and dangerous, but they were also full of possibilities. She could not fight the war with weapons alone, and she would not. Instead, she would use what humans had always used best: creativity, empathy, and the stubborn belief that even the smallest, most underestimated species could change the fate of the galaxy. As the shuttle entered hyperspace, leaving the suns and the cliffs behind, Alara allowed herself a brief smile. For the first time in years, she felt alive. The exile was over. The journey had begun, and humanity's return to the galactic stage was about to be written, not with violence but with courage and wisdom. The shuttle hummed quietly as it slipped through the void between stars, leaving the twin suns of Serla Prime behind. Inside, Princess Alara studied the map of the human colonies projected before her. It was a network of scattered worlds, some thriving, some struggling, and some nearly abandoned in the wake of the war. Each point on the map represented lives at risk, families torn apart, and cities caught between alien conflicts. Alara's heart ached for them, but she also felt the spark of possibility. Humanity could rise again if they were guided with intelligence and care, rather than fear and anger. Curran, the engineer, moved to her side, adjusting the shuttle's systems with quick, precise movements. "Princess," he said, "our path will take us through contested sectors. The alien patrols there are aggressive. Even a small mistake could bring trouble." Alara nodded. "I understand," she replied, "but we cannot wait for safety. Every moment wasted is another world lost." Her voice was steady, though inside she felt a flutter of nerves. The responsibility of leading a scattered species weighed heavily upon her. The first day of their journey passed without incident. They navigated through asteroid belts and minor gravitational anomalies, using ingenuity rather than brute force to maintain course. Even the shuttle's limited power reserves were managed cleverly, with Curran rerouting energy from non-essential systems to keep their engines stable. Each small success strengthened the bond between Alara and her crew. They began to see her not only as a princess, but as a leader who could inspire confidence without demanding it. On the second day, they approached a planet under siege, its atmosphere thick with the smoke of disrupted trade routes. Reports from sensors showed a blockade set by one of the more aggressive alien factions. The humans there were trapped, unable to send supplies or communicate freely with nearby allies. Alara studied the readings carefully, tracing the patterns of the alien ships' movements. "This is not a fight we can win with weapons," she said, "but we can solve this differently." The crew watched as Alara formulated a plan. She suggested using the shuttle's cloaking system to slip past the blockade, then sending small, automated drones to deliver essential supplies to the stranded human settlements. The drones were simple devices, designed to follow predetermined paths and avoid detection. The crew hesitated at first, unsure if it would succeed, but Alara's confidence was steady, her mind working through every variable. When the plan was executed, the results were immediate. The drones delivered food, water, and medical supplies to the humans trapped behind the blockade. Word spread quickly among the local population that help had arrived, not through violence, but through clever thinking and careful planning. Even some of the alien patrols, watching from a distance, began to reconsider their approach. They had expected confrontation, not ingenuity. Alara realized that this small victory carried more weight than she had anticipated. The humans who received the supplies began organizing themselves, creating temporary networks to support each other until the blockade could be removed. It was the first sign that human cooperation could thrive even under pressure. The princess smiled quietly to herself. One small action could ripple outward, changing not just a planet, but potentially the course of the entire war. As the shuttle continued its journey, the crew began sharing stories of their own experiences. Leora, a human diplomat who had joined Alara, spoke of her years negotiating peace between minor alien settlements. She described how patience and careful observation had prevented many conflicts. Her eyes sparkled when she spoke, and Alara felt the importance of these lessons. Strength was not always shown through weapons or fleets, but through understanding, listening, and acting with wisdom. The third day brought a challenge unlike any they had faced. Their path crossed with an ancient space station orbiting a deserted planet. The station had long been abandoned, but sensors indicated that a group of young humans had taken refuge there. They were not hostile, but curious and cautious, afraid of leaving the relative safety of the station. Alara approached the situation with care. She used communication channels rather than physical entry, sending messages of reassurance and friendship. "We are not here to take control," she told them. "We are here to help. Humanity needs all of us working together, and you have a place in this effort." The young humans were hesitant at first, unsure if they could trust someone they had never met. But Alara's sincerity, coupled with the careful planning of her crew, won them over. They shared information about nearby alien movements, resources, and hidden threats. In return, Alara promised to guide them to safety and to include them in the broader effort to rebuild and unite the human colonies. It was a moment that reminded everyone that courage did not always roar. Sometimes it whispered and reached out across fear and doubt. The days that followed were filled with similar small victories. Each planet, each settlement, required careful observation, planning, and negotiation. On one planet, a water shortage threatened the survival of a community. Alara and her crew devised a system to collect and purify rainwater using simple but effective technology, saving countless lives without any confrontation. On another, humans were trapped under the control of an alien faction, forced to labor on projects that benefited only their captors. Through careful diplomacy and clever coordination with sympathetic aliens, Alara helped them gain freedom and autonomy, demonstrating that human creativity could match any challenge. Through all of this, Alara's reputation began to grow. Even distant factions started hearing tales of a human princess who solved problems without violence, who inspired loyalty and cooperation instead of fear. It was a reputation that the humans themselves needed, a reminder that their species could survive and even thrive, not by the power of weapons, but by the strength of their mind and spirit. One evening, as the shuttle traveled through a calm region of space, the crew gathered in the small cabin for a shared meal. The atmosphere was warm, filled with laughter and quiet conversations. For the first time in months, Alara felt a sense of normalcy. She realized that leadership was not just about making decisions or giving orders. It was about listening, connecting, and building trust. It was about showing that humans could rise above the fear and division that the war had sown. The next morning, a new challenge awaited. Sensors detected an alien patrol heading directly toward them. The patrol was powerful, faster, and better armed than their shuttle. A typical response would have been to flee, but Alara saw an opportunity. She instructed Curran to adjust their trajectory slightly, leading the patrol into a dense asteroid field. The alien ships were not familiar with the area and slowed to avoid collisions. At the same time, Alara sent a message to the patrol, proposing a non-violent resolution. The humans only sought safe passage and had no interest in conflict. To the crew's surprise, the patrol responded with caution rather than aggression. They allowed the shuttle to pass, impressed by the humans' careful planning and confidence. The encounter strengthened the crew's belief that their methods could work even in the most dangerous situations. Alara smiled quietly to herself. Every successful negotiation, every clever maneuver, was a step closer to uniting humanity and ending the war. As they approached the outer sectors of the human colonies, a new sense of purpose settled over the crew. They were not just travelers returning a princess to her home. They were ambassadors of human resilience, messengers of ingenuity, and bearers of hope to worlds that had long forgotten it. Each small victory added momentum, and Alara felt the weight of responsibility transform into determination. She knew that the journey ahead would only become more challenging, but she also knew that humans had survived far greater odds before. The day ended with the shuttle passing a planet known for its strategic location in the conflict. The sensors picked up signals from humans who had been living in hiding, waiting for guidance. Alara activated a communication channel and spoke gently. "We are here to help. We will work together. Humanity is stronger when we stand united." The response was slow at first, hesitant, but gradually, messages of hope began to flow. Humans across the planet shared information, coordinated with each other, and expressed gratitude for the guidance and support. It was a moment that reminded Alara of why she had chosen this path. The war could not be ended by fear or force alone. It would be ended by humans working together, thinking creatively, and believing in their shared future. As the shuttle moved into orbit around the planet, the crew looked out at the twinkling cities below. Lights of human settlements shone like stars, small but resilient against the dark expanse of space. Alara felt a surge of pride and hope. They had begun a chain of events that could change the fate of humanity. Every life they saved, every obstacle they overcame, every trust they built, was a proof of what humans could achieve when they refused to give in to despair. Alara took a deep breath and looked at her crew. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we take the next step, not as exiles or refugees, but as humans who will remind the galaxy that our strength is not in weapons, but in our hearts and minds. Every challenge is an opportunity. Every problem has a solution. And together, we will find it." The shuttle floated silently in orbit as the twin moons of the planet cast gentle shadows across the landscape. In the quiet of space, Alara felt the weight of the journey ahead, but also the undeniable spark of hope. The first steps had been taken. Humanity was awakening, guided not by fear, but by ingenuity, courage, and the unwavering belief that they could shape their own destiny. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Princess Alara knew that their story was just beginning. The shuttle descended slowly toward the Human Alliance capital, a city suspended among the clouds of its gas giant planet. It was a place that had once been the heart of human civilization, where golden towers gleamed under twin suns, and the streets had been alive with energy, debate, and discovery. Now, from orbit, Alara could see the scars left by war. Some towers had collapsed, bridges were broken, and pockets of the city were silent, abandoned by those who had fled or hidden from conflict. Still, there were signs of life, small groups of humans moving cautiously through the streets, repairing, rebuilding, surviving. Alara's heart ached and swelled with determination. The sight reminded her why she had returned. The alliance had fractured, and the humans' place in the galaxy had been undermined. But it was also a reminder of resilience. Humanity was still here, still breathing, still capable of greatness. Curran guided the shuttle through the city's outer rings, weaving carefully between damaged structures. "The patrols are still active," he said. "Many of the alien factions believe humans are weak. They are watching, waiting for the right moment to attack again." Alara nodded. "We will not give them that chance," she said. "We will show them that humans are capable of more than they ever imagined." The shuttle landed in a quiet plaza, once the site of bustling markets and public gatherings. A small group of humans, survivors who had been waiting for a leader, stepped forward. Some were children who had grown up during the war, others were adults who had lost everything. They looked at Alara with a mixture of hope, curiosity, and doubt. The princess stepped forward, her posture calm but confident. "I am Princess Alara," she said softly but firmly. "I have returned to guide us, not to rule us with force, but to remind us of what humans are capable of. We have survived before, and we will survive again, together." There was silence, followed by murmurs of agreement. Slowly, the humans began to gather around her, their faces showing a mixture of cautious optimism and renewed purpose. They had been leaderless for too long, and in Alara, they saw not just royalty but someone who believed in them, who trusted their strength. Over the next days, Alara began visiting neighborhoods, speaking with groups of survivors, engineers, scholars, and traders. Each conversation revealed the challenges humans faced: shortages of food and water, disrupted communication networks, and lingering fear of alien patrols. But with every challenge, Alara and her crew found solutions. They organized food distribution using automated drones, repaired communication hubs, and created safe zones where humans could gather, share information, and support each other. Each small victory built trust and momentum. One day, a group of human scouts arrived with news that alien factions were preparing a council meeting. Leaders from several major factions would convene to discuss the fate of the human colonies. Most expected humans to submit, or at least remain silent, their opinions irrelevant. Alara saw an opportunity. If she could reach this council, she could present humanity not as a weak species to be controlled, but as a partner capable of contributing solutions. The journey to the council was delicate. Alara and her crew navigated space corridors filled with alien patrols, using intelligence and diplomacy to avoid confrontation. They sent messages ahead, requesting safe passage, emphasizing their peaceful intentions and willingness to cooperate. Many factions were skeptical, but the careful preparation and reputation of Alara's crew began to open doors. When they arrived at the council chamber, the view took Alara's breath away. Representatives from dozens of alien worlds floated in their seats, observing the human delegation with curiosity and suspicion. Many had long considered humans insignificant, their species too small and fragmented to pose any real challenge. Alara knew that first impressions would matter. She stepped forward and began to speak, her voice calm, deliberate, and full of confidence. "I am Princess Alara of the Human Alliance. I have returned not to demand, not to threaten, but to show you what humanity can contribute to peace. Our species has survived impossible odds not through force, but through ingenuity, cooperation, and the determination to find solutions when none seem possible." There were murmurs among the council. Some representatives whispered to each other, skeptical but attentive. Others leaned forward, intrigued by the clarity and conviction of her words. Alara continued, outlining examples of human creativity and problem-solving. The coordinated delivery of supplies to planets under blockade, the repair of infrastructure without violence, and the establishment of networks of trust among previously isolated human communities. "The humans you see before you are not helpless," she said. "They are capable of rebuilding, of working together, and of creating solutions that benefit more than just themselves. If you allow us the opportunity, we can demonstrate that humans are not a species to be controlled, but a species to be respected." A silence followed her words. Then, one of the alien representatives, a tall, silver-skinned diplomat, spoke. "You speak of ingenuity and cooperation, Princess, yet your species has been fragmented. How can we trust that these qualities will survive under pressure?" Alara smiled gently. "Trust is built through action, not words. We have already taken steps to prove ourselves. Every human community we have helped, every challenge we have overcome without violence, is evidence that we are capable of more than war. We do not ask for blind trust. We ask for a chance to show what humans can achieve when given the opportunity." The council deliberated for hours. Alara remained calm, answering questions, offering clear examples, and showing her understanding of both human and alien concerns. She emphasized cooperation, long-term benefits, and the importance of shared solutions. Slowly, skepticism began to shift toward curiosity and curiosity toward cautious approval. During a break in the deliberations, a young human engineer approached her. "Princess," he said quietly, "they are listening. They are beginning to see that what you say makes sense." Alara nodded. "We must remain patient and consistent. Their trust will not be given lightly, but every action we take now builds the foundation for peace." The next phase of her plan involved more than words. Alara coordinated simultaneous efforts across multiple human colonies to demonstrate cooperation and efficiency. Supplies were distributed, communications restored, and conflict zones monitored to prevent misunderstandings. Each successful action was reported to the Council, showing that humans were capable of self-organization, planning, and strategic thinking. By the end of the week, the Council's perspective had begun to change. Representatives acknowledged that humans were no longer insignificant, but capable partners. They began discussing collaborative projects that included human input, not as subordinates, but as equal participants. Alara's heart swelled with quiet pride. Every decision, every act of patience and careful planning had created progress. Yet, not all factions were convinced. A small group of alien leaders still viewed humans as weak, their efforts unworthy of attention. They whispered and plotted, attempting to find flaws in the human plans, seeking opportunities to discredit Alara's efforts. She anticipated this. Using intelligence gathered from her network, she subtly exposed the factions' attempts to manipulate outcomes, without confrontation or accusation. The Council, seeing the evidence, recognized the humans' transparency and the value of their approach. One evening, after long hours of council deliberation, Alara and her crew returned to their quarters. Exhausted but satisfied, they gathered to reflect on the progress made. Leora, the diplomat, spoke with quiet enthusiasm. "Princess, they are starting to listen. They are beginning to see humans as more than just survivors. You have opened doors that no one thought possible." Alara smiled, tired but determined. This is only the beginning. The war is not yet over, and many challenges remain. But if we continue to act with patience, intelligence, and cooperation, humans can prove that strength is measured not by power, but by wisdom and unity. The following day, the council resumed deliberations with renewed focus. Alara presented a detailed plan for a galactic network of shared resources, communication, and collaboration. Her approach emphasized benefits for all factions, showing that peace could be mutually advantageous. She highlighted examples of previous successes, illustrating how human creativity and coordination could prevent conflicts before they escalated. To the amazement of many, the plan was met with growing approval. Even factions that had long been skeptical began to acknowledge the potential of a human-centered cooperative strategy. The council debated, refined, and adjusted the proposal, and by the end of the week, a historic agreement began to take shape. Alara felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. The council's approval was only the first step. The implementation of the plan would require continued effort, patience, and coordination across countless worlds. But she knew that humanity had taken its first significant step toward ending the war, not with violence or dominance, but with intelligence, empathy, and unwavering determination. As the suns of the capital planet set behind the towers, casting golden light across the damaged but resilient city, Alara stood by a window and gazed at the streets below. Humans were emerging from hiding, rebuilding their communities, and working together in ways that had once seemed impossible. She felt the weight of responsibility settle comfortably on her shoulders. Leadership was not about commanding armies or enforcing authority. It was about inspiring others, creating solutions, and demonstrating that even the smallest, most underestimated species could change the fate of the galaxy. The council had begun to listen, but the journey was not over. Beyond the city, across countless stars and planets, humans still faced uncertainty, fear, and challenges. Alara knew that her role was to continue guiding them, to show that patience, creativity, and cooperation could achieve what weapons never could. As night fell, the city lights twinkled like stars mirrored in the sky. Alara turned to her crew, her voice calm but full of conviction. Tomorrow, we take the next step. We will begin implementing our plan across the colonies. Every community we support, every challenge we solve, strengthens humanity's place in the galaxy. We are not here to dominate. We are here to lead with wisdom, courage, and hope. Together, we will end the war, and we will show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of. The crew nodded, their determination matching her own. They had witnessed the impact of careful planning, patient diplomacy, and human ingenuity. They had seen trust built, alliances formed, and hope restored. And as they prepared for the work ahead, Princess Alara felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's story was being rewritten, not with violence or conquest, but with courage, intelligence, and the unwavering belief that the future could be shaped by those willing to think, to act, and to believe in themselves. The morning light stretched over the human alliance, capital spilling through the tall windows of the council chambers, and illuminating the faces of humans and aliens gathered together. For the first time in decades, the room felt calm, purposeful, and alive with hope. Princess Alara stood at the front, her posture steady, her eyes bright with determination. She had spent weeks listening, observing, and guiding, and now the moment had come to begin the real work, implementing the plan that could end the war and restore humanity's place in the galaxy. Alara addressed the assembly with confidence, her voice clear and steady. We have proven that humans can act not only with courage but with wisdom and cooperation. The Council's agreement is a start, but our task is greater than that. We must ensure that all humans, from the smallest settlements to the largest cities, can work together, share knowledge, and create a network of support that leaves no one behind. She outlined a series of initiatives designed to unify human colonies and facilitate cooperation with alien allies. Automated communication systems were deployed, connecting isolated settlements. Shared resource hubs were established, allowing planets to trade food, water, and essential materials efficiently. Education programs were organized to teach both humans and aliens the principles of cooperation, diplomacy, and problem-solving that had guided Alara's own journey. Each step was carefully planned to strengthen communities without provoking conflict. Outside the capital, humans across the galaxy began to notice the changes. On distant planets, settlements once isolated or struggling now received supplies, guidance, and messages of encouragement. Communities that had been divided by fear or misunderstanding began working together. Leaders emerged from among the people, encouraged by Alara's example and by the visible results of cooperation. Slowly, the galaxy started to see humans not as a weak or divided species, but as one capable of organizing, solving problems, and contributing meaningfully to a larger order. Even the alien factions that had once dismissed humans began to recognize the value of this approach. Small delegations visited human colonies, observing the systems Alara had helped establish. They saw the creativity, efficiency, and determination of the humans firsthand. Some of the skeptics began asking questions, seeking advice, or offering to collaborate. It was a slow process, but change often was. One evening, while reviewing reports from the colonies, Alara noticed a recurring pattern. Conflicts that might have escalated were being resolved before they began. Disputes over resources were settled through negotiation and careful planning. Misunderstandings between different human settlements or between humans and aliens were addressed with patience and dialogue. It was a sign that the strategies they had used so far were working, and that the foundation for lasting peace was being built. Leora, the human diplomat who had traveled with Alara, leaned over the table. "Princess, look at this," she said, pointing to the data. "Every colony we've supported shows measurable improvement. Food and water distribution has stabilized. Trade networks are functioning. Conflicts are decreasing. The humans are learning to cooperate on their own." Alara allowed herself a quiet smile. "This is the true strength of humanity," she said softly. "Not weapons, not power, but the ability to learn, adapt, and work together. The more we show them this, the more they believe it themselves." But not every challenge was simple. In one sector, a group of humans had grown frustrated with the slow pace of change. They had begun to hoard resources, fearing that others might take more than their fair share. Alara and her team approached the situation carefully, choosing dialogue over confrontation. They held meetings, explained the benefits of cooperation, and demonstrated how sharing resources could result in greater security and abundance for everyone. Slowly, the group's attitude shifted, and they joined the network willingly. It was a reminder to Alara that human progress was never linear. Challenges would arise, doubts would linger, and patience would be required. Yet each success, no matter how small, was a step forward. Each human who learned to cooperate was a victory not of force, but of understanding. Alara's efforts did not go unnoticed by the alien factions. Representatives who had once doubted humanity's abilities began advocating for closer collaboration. Some offered resources and expertise to help human colonies rebuild more efficiently. Others served as advisors, sharing strategies that complemented Alara's initiatives. The galaxy was slowly shifting, with humans gaining respect not through fear, but through demonstration of competence and integrity. During one council session, an alien representative addressed the assembly. "We have watched humans act with foresight and patience. We see that their solutions benefit more than themselves. We see that they can contribute meaningfully to peace. Princess Alara has shown us a way forward. Alara nodded, acknowledging the words without arrogance. The humans have shown this not for praise, she said, but because it is who we are. We can survive and thrive when we work together, and we can help others do the same. As weeks turned into months, the network of human colonies became more robust. Isolated settlements were no longer alone. Trade routes flowed smoothly, communication systems functioned reliably, and education programs spread the principles of cooperation far and wide. Humans began to feel connected in a way they had never experienced, and with connection came confidence and unity. Alara herself spent time traveling between colonies, visiting remote planets, and witnessing the progress firsthand. On one icy world, she watched children build automated irrigation systems, inspired by her own crew's inventions. On another desert planet, humans and aliens collaborated to construct solar arrays that would provide power for generations. Every act of ingenuity, every successful collaboration, reinforced the lesson that humans could achieve greatness without resorting to violence. One day, a message arrived from the outermost human colonies. A small fleet of alien patrols had approached, expecting to find resistance or chaos. Instead, they were greeted by organized communities, systems of trade, and cooperative governance. The patrols observed that humans had already solved the challenges they had anticipated. The aliens left without confrontation, and in their reports, they praised humanity's organization and creativity. Alara read the message with quiet satisfaction. This was the proof she had sought. Humans were no longer perceived as weak or divided. The council convened once more, this time to formalize a lasting agreement. Alara presented a comprehensive plan for shared governance, mutual respect, and ongoing collaboration between humans and allied factions. Every element was designed to prevent future conflicts while encouraging growth, innovation, and unity. Alien representatives, inspired by the progress they had witnessed, voiced their support. The agreement was signed, marking a historic moment in the galaxy, a war averted, a species strengthened, and a path toward lasting peace created without a single battle fought. Alara allowed herself a moment of reflection. She thought of her years in exile, the loneliness, and the uncertainty that had plagued her. She thought of the small victories along the way, the humans who had trusted her, and the aliens who had chosen cooperation over conflict. Every step had led to this moment, proving that hope, patience, and wisdom were as powerful as any weapon. Returning to the capital, Alara walked through the streets, observing the transformation. Humans were rebuilding homes, markets were opening, and communities were thriving. The fear that had once paralyzed them was fading, replaced by confidence in their own abilities and the knowledge that they were not alone. Across the city, the glow of lights reflected the spirit of humanity, resilient and bright. Her crew followed her, sharing in the sense of accomplishment but aware that the work was ongoing. Alara spoke to them quietly. This is only the beginning. Humanity has taken its first step toward a future where we are respected, capable, and united. But our greatest strength is not in this moment alone. It is in the lessons we have learned, the bonds we have formed, and the belief that we can always find solutions together. The days that followed were filled with continued efforts to strengthen the network of human colonies. Each success reinforced the lesson that problems could be solved without conflict, that communication and cooperation were powerful tools, and that humans could rise above the divisions that had once weakened them. Aliens who had once been adversaries became collaborators, mentors, and friends. The galaxy, once torn by war, began to experience the quiet work of rebuilding, guided by the ingenuity and courage of a species that had refused to be underestimated. One evening, as the twin moons of the capital planet rose in the sky, Alara stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The air was filled with the hum of life, the laughter of children, and the quiet work of people repairing and rebuilding. She felt a sense of peace, not because the work was done, but because she knew that humanity had proven itself capable of creating a better future. Curran joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Princess," he said, "look at what we've accomplished. The humans are no longer seen as weak or insignificant. You've shown the galaxy that our strength lies in our minds, our hearts, and our willingness to work together." Alara nodded, her eyes reflecting the glow of the city below. "We have done more than survive," she said. "We have created a path for the future. Humanity will continue to grow, learn, and inspire, and we will do so without the need for violence, without the need for domination, only through understanding, ingenuity, and cooperation." The stars beyond the city sparkled, a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy and the endless possibilities ahead. Alara felt the weight of leadership, but it was tempered by hope, pride, and the knowledge that humans had reclaimed their place among the stars. They had returned from exile not to fight but to guide, to teach, and to inspire. As night fully settled over the capital, Alara allowed herself a quiet smile. The war was over. Humanity was united. The future was bright, and the galaxy had witnessed what humans could accomplish when they chose courage, wisdom, and cooperation over fear and division. And Princess Alara, once in exile, now stood at the center of a new era, knowing that the true victory was not in defeating others, but in proving the potential of her own people. The work would continue, challenges would arise, and obstacles would appear, but humanity had shown that they could face them together. The journey had begun with a small step, a decision to return, and a belief that solutions could always be found without violence. Now the path was clear. Humans would thrive, not through conquest, but through unity, intelligence, and hope, shining as a beacon across the stars. Princess Alara turned away from the balcony and walked back into the heart of the city, ready to continue guiding her people. Around her, humans worked, laughed, and dreamed of the future. It was a future that they would build together, a future that would endure, and a future that would always remind the galaxy that the strength of humanity lay not in weapons or armies, but in courage, creativity, and the power of hope. The human princess returned from exile to end the war.